And good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Kim Davis. Welcome. It is Tuesday, May the 30th. It is the last Tuesday of May, only a couple more days in this month. I cannot believe it is about to be June, but it is also officially summer. So, welcome to the summer. All right, so listen, let me just check one thing really quickly because I am not sure. Um, Test, test, test. There we go. Just wanted to make sure the audio was working because it sounded a little different. Anyway, welcome, welcome, welcome. A lot has happened since the last time we met. We will start with, well, you know what? Before we start jumping into some of our topics for today, I've got to make sure I start with the people who help us do this each and every week. I mentioned to you our good friends over at I Love Jinka have some great news to announce. They have announced it. They are moving into I think 175 stores of HEB. They were in 40. Let me just pull it up because I can tell you exactly what they said. Um, so they've been in 40 HEBs in the healthy living departments, and starting this month or starting in June, they will be in all 175 HEB stores that have a healthy living department, right? So previously, if you were in Southeast Texas, Houston area, maybe over to Beaumont, down in Lake Jackson, you could go in HEB and find Jinka. Well, now you're going to be able to find it all over where HEB has a healthy living store. Jinka is a turmeric paste. It comes in the form of a paste, a powder, and also vegan capsules. It's great for all things inflammation. And of course, inflammation is really the root of many of our problems, pain with aches and joints, our cholesterol level goes up, or, we see some, challenges with our skin. Much of that comes from inflammation that needs to be treated internally. I Love Jinka is really great for that. If you are looking for it and you wonder what it looks like, here's what it looks like, and here's where you find it.
Here at HEB in the Healthy Living Department, the probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yeah. Look at that Jinka sale. Look at that Jinka.
And for those of you who are not in Southeast Texas, you're like, Kim, I don't live in Texas, right? I'm not near an HEB. Well, you are in luck. You can go to ilovejinka.com and you can find it online. You don't have to worry about missing out because you can't go into a store. Or if you would just rather have it shipped to you, you can go to their website at ilovejinka.com. We appreciate them. We're super excited for them growing their business, being able to scale, and just the great things they're doing and how their product is really changing people's lives. All right. I've also talked to you many times about Stephanie Serland, who is an esthetician. She has some great products, but she does a great job at assessing your skincare. So here's what you could expect if you reach out to Stephanie at Sohum. Get a consultation, treat yourself, go get a facial. This is what you can expect to experience. Nothing short of calming. You're going to feel like you can almost go through sort of a retreat for a moment. And it's actually much more than just a facial. You will not be disappointed when you go over and check out Stephanie Serland. And of course, don't forget about Kimmy Treats in stock at locally, if you're in the Houston area, at Sunshine's Vegetarian Deli near the Medical Center on Old Spanish Trail. We'll be restocking later today with more vegan popcorn and Kimmy bars. But if you are not, again, in Houston, Kimmy Treats ships everywhere. You can go to kimmytreats.com, and here are the options you can choose. So there are multiple flavors of popcorn. There's also hand-whipped body butter, and Kimmy Treats have been added back to the menu. All of that is available at Sunshine's and also online at kimmytreats.com. And last but certainly not least, we want to reminds you about our most recent partner, and that's Champ. Champ is an organization that supports veterans. You can support Champ, help Champ support veterans and save lives, right? It's prevention is vital to wellness, and mental health and behavioral health support is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you see something, say something, call 988. If you see someone who needs help, is having a mental crisis, the number you want to dial is 988. So remember to support Champ, help Champ support our veterans. We just celebrated Memorial Day on yesterday. And so let's not just think about veterans on a holiday. Let's see how we can support our veterans year round. So we appreciate Champ and the work they're doing. Remember, if you see something happening, somebody who needs support or help, having a mental episode, dial 988 so that you can help and support them. All right, so there is a lot happening in the world of sport and just in the world in general, right? We're going to start with what's going on in the NBA. Last night, the Miami Heat won Game 7 in Boston to advance to the NBA Finals. They will take on the Denver Nuggets, who've been sitting back chilling for the last week after they swept the Lakers. The Heat, who jumped up to a 3-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals. And we thought, okay, well, this is over. Then the Celtics won Game 4, and then Game 5, and then Game 6 in just a dramatic fashion, and which would send the series back to Boston for Game 7. So naturally, you think, you know what, Boston has probably the better roster. They're going back home. The Heat had a chance to close them out, and they didn't. So it's Boston's game to lose. And that is not what happened. The Heat won last night, and we keep flashing back to Jimmy Butler in 2022 after they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals, and he said, we'll be back, and next time we're going to win it. And that is exactly what they did. They defeated the Boston Celtics in Boston last night pretty handily. Of course, Jason Tatum got hurt really on the first offensive possession of the game. He injured his ankle. Never really looked like he was, he was fully, like, he wasn't recovered from it. It hampered him throughout the night, but Miami just did everything right. Jimmy Butler was the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. They are now headed to Denver to take on the Nuggets. And of course, most people will say, listen, there's no way this Heat team can beat the Nuggets, and the matchup, hell really that the Joker presents. But listen, what we've seen this postseason is that you cannot count out the Miami Heat. So don't ask me who I'm picking, because I don't have a selection at this point. Anyway, that Game 1 starts tomorrow. No, it starts Thursday. It starts Thursday in Denver, and it should be, I hope it's a really good, a really competitive series. But what this does is it brings up a lot of questions about what should happen in postseason. So there was some conversation this morning on Get Up, and they were talking about what this means for this Boston team and the Boston team's the future. So I am going to share something.
He was not able to do it. Couldn't make shots, sloppy with the basketball. It was a disaster for Jalen Brown. There's no other way to put it. So you add up all of those things, and you get Boston's arguably worst performance of the season in the biggest moment of their season. And that's what you watched last night.
I mean, karma got the Celtics. Let's be honest. All right. First and foremost, just let's go back to Game 6 and how lucky, yes, lucky they were to win that game. Serendipity is why they won that game. Ball went right to Derek White, put back. The series should have been over in 6. That didn't happen. So this is the play that you thought would go down in history, but instead it was the Celtics that went down with history because they weren't able to make it off this play. Now, after this game, what does Jalen Brown say? It means nothing if we lay an egg on our home floor in Game 7. Guess what happened? They laid an egg in Game 7 at home. It's as if he kind of knew this is what we're about. On their shirts, they wear a slogan. It says unfinished business. It's about being in the finals last year and not getting number 18. Well,
so this was some of the conversation across networks today about this Boston Celtics team, right? What is to happen to them in terms of their future? You have Jalen, you have Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. And if you extend them both with these max deals, you're talking about almost $600 million that's tied up between the two players. Is that what the Boston Celtics will do? Do you keep them both? Do you try to deal Jalen Brown? I mean, it's going to be interesting to find out as we get closer to free agent, what the expectation, what should we expect? What could actually happen with this team? And, it'll be an interesting offseason, to say the least. I saw people posting things last night on Twitter talking about the Houston Rockets, and they were putting together a deal to package Alfred Şengün and Tyree Eason and the fourth pick in the upcoming draft for Jalen Brown. Listen, all of those are all rumors and speculation. Okay. But it's interesting how people put things together, and then the reaction that you see from fans and some people in the basketball community about some of the, proposed moves or deals that could be made. I still think, from everything that I'm hearing, and it's not the way that I would go, but I'm still hearing that James Harden is at the top of the list for what the Houston Rockets would like to do. And now that the Philadelphia 76ers have hired Nick Nurse as their next coach, and they did not go with the Mike D'Antoni, I don't know what that means for James Harden. I don't know that he wants to go back to Philadelphia and play under a Nick Nurse. I don't know that is where he sees his future. So maybe that is another feather in the cap, I guess, for the Rockets, if they want to try to bring James Harden back. Last week we had Kelly Iko on from The Athletic, who covers the Rockets, and he gave us a lot of the basketball reasons, the other side to why this would make some sense to bring a James Harden back, what he could add to this team, how he could help these young players, these young up-and-coming players, and get them back to being up to a level of being competitive and making a push for a play-in, or maybe be a playoff contender. A lot of maybes, but it does change the dynamics a lot. So we heard that side of it last week. And now we'll have to just wait and see what happens. I just hope that if the Houston Rockets bring back James Harden, which apparently is there's a real high probability that can happen, that they don't give him a max deal. If you bring him back, give him a 2-year deal. Don't give him a max deal. He is on the other side of his career, although he still has some things to offer, some things to give. Again, it's not the choice that I would make, but if they're going that route, I just hope they don't give him a max deal. Listen, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting offseason once the finals are over and we head toward free agency, the draft. We'll see what happens and what can be, or what should be expected, right? What could that be? Hello, Rita, my cousin. Thank you very much. She likes the hair color. I appreciate you, my friend. Are you still out exercising and walking at the park? I've been following you. I see that you are doing a great job of getting it in and staying fit and healthy. Hey, good morning, James Holiday. He says, biggest mistake, bringing Harden, corrupt these young minds. James, it's interesting. The people who talk about how good Harden would be for the young players, when you talk to the guys like a Jalen Green and a Jabari and Tari, those guys, they still hold him in somewhat, do we say, high regard? They think a lot of him, from how he plays. He has spoken really highly about this young core. But yeah, it's not a move if I had the control that I would make. But I've heard the argument for it, and I'm listening to the other side and trying to remain objective. Because listen, I am one of those people that when you know, how you leave and how you show up matters a lot. You know, I remember that the year that Justin Verlander, I'm switching sports on you, James, when he was recovering from the Tommy John surgery, and he was out for quite a while. And at the end of that 2021 season, when the Astros were playing the Braves, and they were clearly short-handed with pitching when Lance got hurt, and it was like Justin didn't even try to come back. And I remember talking to one of my dear friends, and we both were like, the very next day after the World Series was over, he was out throwing lights out, right? So it was like, oh, he was more concerned about his next contract than really supporting his team, where he had remained the highest paid player. But I digress. They brought him back. He was great during the season. You know, finally won a game in postseason. But you know, I just never felt necessarily great. And that's not denying his talent, right? What he brought this team last year in the regular season was impressive and very, very helpful. But you're absolutely right. Harden quit on this team. He quit on the team by the way he left, but also there's some games where you could say, when you go back to watching him in his career here, that you wonder, did he quit? In that game 5 against the Spurs, did he quit? When he didn't really show up. And yes, you can say that Chris Paul got hurt. He did. That's what happens. But what did you get from James Harden in that game 7 against the Golden State Warriors, who clearly, I would say, had the better roster? There's no question of that. But in terms of where they were, what we know when we look at what happened in the Eastern Conference Finals this year, I don't think anybody would doubt or question whether Boston had a stronger roster than the Miami Heat. But it's more than that. And that's what we saw, right? It's mindset, it's how you're made up, it's coaching, it's all of those things combined. And who are your leaders? What is the leader doing? And you saw that from a Jimmy Butler. So yeah, I just don't know about it. And yeah, I know, James, I should let the Verlander thing go. It's just an example to me sometimes when players are kind of caught up into themselves. And unfortunately for Verlander, he has been injured most of the early part of this Major League Baseball season. He is no longer part of the Astros roster. But, you know, it's just what happens. So I agree with you. It's so much more than just a roster. Who are you as a person? What is your DNA? Do you have winner, championship, leadership DNA within you? And I don't know that that's the case with James Harden. Good morning, Ellen. It's my sister. I almost called her by her family name. Good morning. Glad to see you on Chalk Talk. It is an interesting time. You know, on the consulting side of my business, I talk a lot about communication, and I talk a lot about leadership. And leadership is really key in any organization, whether you're running a business, whether you're fielding a team. Leadership really matters. And I just don't see James Harden as a leader. That's what it is for me. I don't think he's a leader. Can he still score and make some, have some great offensive productions? He can. What does he do in an elimination game when the game is on the line? We saw it in Game 7 with the Sixers and the Celtics. We saw how he showed up. I've seen that James Harden more times than I care to remember. And so I had a guy tell me last night and say, listen, if James comes back, there's no expectation that he is going to be, that this team's going to win a championship. No, there's no expectation about that. But I do think that the things that happen with champions, you want that to be taught to your young team, because the goal is that this team at some point would be in the conversation about being a champion again. Like, they've not won since the Hakeem Olajuwon days, when they won back-to-back championships in 94 and 95. So it's time, as Mario Ellie posted recently on Twitter, to create some new, make some new memories for this Rockets team. It's time for them to get back into the conversation about postseason and making a run and going deep in the playoffs? And can they get to the conference finals? And then can they get to the NBA finals? And can they be champions again? So I think it matters the pieces you put around. So I think you and I are saying the same things, James. Interesting. This morning, Bob Myers steps down as GM of the Golden State Warriors. There had been some conversation about that. And I want to know your thoughts about it. This Golden State Warriors team has been well put together for quite a while. And he's been in that role for, I think 11 years. I'm just double checking that. And they have been very, very successful. He's a 2-time executive of the year. Of course, he was the architect of 4 NBA championships with the Warriors. And he is stepping down as the franchise's president and general manager. He said it's just time. His contract expires next month. And apparently he told ESPN that it's time. He did get offers. The ownership did make him offers for a new deal that would have paid him among the league's top earning executives. And he said it's really about more than money. And so good luck to Bob Myers, but it will be interesting to see how that impacts what happens with the Golden State Warriors, because when we saw them bow out of the playoffs this year to the Lakers, we thought, okay, what does that mean for this Warriors roster moving forward? What do they look like? Do they does Draymond Green stay? I mean, what happens with this team? Jordan Poole got the big deal last year. He was a non-factor postseason. What happens with this team? And now that Bob has stepped down, there are even, I'm sure, more questions swirling around the Golden State Warriors franchise. So James says, goes back to your point about leadership, front office, coaching, and players. It is all of that. You are absolutely right. We look at the Miami Heat. So Pat Riley, we know he knows how to build a team. There's Eric Spoelstra, who there were people who actually said if the Heat didn't win that series that Eric should be fired, which was insanity. So you've got the front office, you've got the coach, and then you've got the team. And then you hear Jimmy Butler, who is a true leader, right? And when he talked about last night, he was also the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. And so Jimmy Butler was asked, how did this happen? Like, how did you get here? How do you know? How do you keep pushing through? And he said, well, it's everything. It's from Pat Riley and from, Eric Spoelstra, them believing in me, putting pieces around me that we all work together. We all buy in. We work as a team. There is no quit. And it's all the things working together to get us to this point, right? So even as he is accepting his MVP, right, he's making it clear it is how the whole thing works together from top to bottom. And they've put him in position to be successful by putting the right people around him. And he and the teammates that he has work collectively. They buy in. They like each other. They believe in each other. And they never, ever gave up, right? So that was really exciting to see. And you're right, James, decisions. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of changes, around the NBA. There have been a lot of coaching changes. Of course, the Houston Rockets have Ime Udoka as their head coach. He's assembling his staff. Nick Nurse was just named the next head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, right? So I would tend to think that perhaps that's not something that bodes well for the future of James Harden remaining in Philadelphia. We don't know that yet. Everyone on the same page is key. I often talk about sports. I say it's a microcosm of society. So it's the same thing that happens in any other business or organization. Everyone on the same page, working toward the same common goal, being equally committed, making the sacrifices to put team first, to put business first, to put family first, whatever those things are, everybody pulling in the same direction. And that's what we saw with the Miami Heat. And that's what it takes to really be successful in this world of sports. We'll get back to the NBA in just a bit, but I want to hop over and talk about the Houston Astros. Tough loss at home yesterday. Was out there, they were on the road. They opened their homestand yesterday, and against Minnesota, they've got 3 games against Minnesota, and then they have a 4-game series with the Angels. Yesterday, it was we got a chance to talk to Dusty before the game. The team got in late. It was a weird start. It was a 3:00 start. So everything was kind of rushed. No excuses for why they didn't win at home yesterday, but it was, it was not the greatest starting pitching performance. I'm just going to say it. Let me go back and pull up what the numbers were for France on yesterday. So the final was 7-5. The game went into extra innings. It was a 10-inning game. In the bottom of the 7th, Jose Altuve hits a grand slam to give the Astros a 1-point lead, right? So they're up 5. At that point, they're at 5-4. And then in the 9th, the top of the 9th, the Twins tied it to make it go 5-all. They go into extra innings because the Astros are not able to convert in the bottom of the 9th. And then in the 10th, the Twins they score 2 more runs, and they win it 7-5. They had 17 hits yesterday, they being the Twins, to get those 7 runs. The Astros had 5 hits and 5 runs. I'm trying to give you the pitching line. So EJ France pitched 6 innings. He gave up 7 hits, 4 runs, all of them earned. And they hit him well. Like the Twins really did hit him well. So that was a little unfortunate. James says, do we really need to be looking for another starting pitcher due to all the injuries? I imagine that they are looking. I can't imagine that Dana Brown and Jim Crane are not considering their options in terms of pitching. Not really sure what's happening with Lance McCullers. It was interesting yesterday because what Lance said about his recovery and what Dusty seemed to say about his, like he's not on the mound yet. Like he's really not that close. I mean, I shouldn't say that close, but he's not throwing from the mound yet. Let's just say that. So we'll see what happens, but it might be time. It may be time that they start looking. I imagine that they've already been looking, seeing what's out there. What are the options? What can they do? You got to check. Urquidy was back yesterday, not obviously in the lineup, but getting some guys back that have been injured will be important. And so they could definitely use a boost in terms of the starting pitching. Now, one of the things that happened over the weekend is that Jose Abreu, the Astros first baseman, who was a free agent, they signed a free agent acquisition they got last offseason, plays first base. He had not had a home run. He hit his first home run as an Astro on Sunday. He was super excited about it. In fact, he sped around the bases like he was trying to beat a throw, and he kind of slid, not into the plate, but right in front of the dugout. Now, that was a lot of enthusiasm, and I get it, but I know if you're Dusty, you're going, whoa, because you don't want him to get injured. But it was, you're right, James. It was long overdue. And he clearly was glad to get it. And he hit the ball well last night. But one of the things Dusty said is once you start getting them, then you hit more. And so here was Dusty Baker yesterday. Before the game, I asked him about Jose Abreu. Hey, Dusty, you said you've been saying all along that you knew that Jose would eventually, hit one out. Can you talk about what it was like yesterday?
No, the law of averages on his side sooner or later. He had none. You know what I mean? So, it was great. It was great to see him happy. It was great to see our team happy because, he's one of the most popular guys on this team in a short period of time, and people want him to do well. And not only do we want him to do well? We need him to do well. So it's Big Monkey off his back, and like seeing him another one today. Because once you start hitting them, I'm telling you, they usually come in bunches. Look at our game yesterday. Once you start hitting them, I don't know if it's a thought process or what, but I've seen it happen many times.
So he didn't hit one yesterday, but he did hit the ball well. Let me see what he did yesterday at the plate. Just wasn't their day yesterday. What did Abreu do yesterday? I think that's not it. He was 1 for 3 with a run scored. So, he reached base on, he was walked, he had a hit, and he scored a run. So, Altuve has quickly moved up to hitting 355. Now, the sample size isn't that big yet because he's only been playing, a little more than a week and a half since he's been back in the lineup. But it was exciting to see. And for all of those who are asking, what on earth is Dusty going to do to get Mauricio Dubon in the lineup? He did play last night. He was in left field. He was 2 for 4 with a run scored. Listen, it's interesting because I don't know what people expect Dusty to do. So whose spot does Dubon take every day? It's a good problem to have, right? When Dubon filled in for Altuve, he was one of the best hitters on the team, and one of the best, obviously, in the American League. He's right now at 295. That's a little bit of a drop. You could say, well, because he's not playing every day and hitting every day, it's affected him. But what you could also say is, what are you going to do? Are you going to not play Altuve? Are you going to you're going to put him at third and take out Bregman? You're going to put him at short and move Pena? So in the outfield, he played left yesterday, and then Alvarez was the DH. You got Jake Myers in center field, and there are those who are super excited. You think Chas should play more in center field. There are only 8 positions. Make it 7, right? Because there's 9 people on the field. One's a pitcher, one's a catcher. He can't play either of those positions. So where are you going to put him? Are you going to remove Kyle Tucker on a regular basis from right? I just think people try sometimes, and it's not just fans. I hear it in media. They're just not satisfied, right? They're just not satisfied. So we will see. We'll see what he does, and we'll see what the lineup is today. I'll be out there later. There's game 2 as they take on the Twins, and Carlos Correa, Carlos Correa is hitting 210 on this young season. He was 0 for 5 yesterday. He did get a walk, and he scored 1 run, but he has been struggling offensively in the early part of this season. So listen, the Astros are they're at 31-22 on the season. They're 3 games behind the Rangers in the American League West, and I think that's fine, right? We're not even to the All-Star break yet. We have just really played 2 full months of baseball. It was a lot of season, but I do think the pitching is something you keep your eye on. When will Lance be able to get back into the rotation? And we'll have to see, right? We'll just have to see. Yes, Dusty is a master manager. I could not agree more, James. I just listen. When people would joke and say, "In Dusty we trusty," I trust Dusty, and because there's something that happens one day that you think, or that a particular media person thinks, I don't really get that. Well, that's why you've not been a successful manager as long as Dusty Baker has. He will definitely be a Hall of Fame manager. He is good at what he does. And I just sit back and chill, right? The Astros are not going to win every game of the season. They're not. But getting them moving forward, competing at the right level, having them peak at the right time so that you can do what you came here for, which is to get to postseason and to compete for a championship. That's the goal. And we can just look at the nemesis New York Yankees, who had these great starts in the spring, and they're being already donned as the this is the year the Yankees get back and they're the ones to beat, and then they don't get there. So what's most important? It's how you run this race, because as James says, it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon. It is definitely not a sprint. All right, we're going to shift gears just a little bit, and I'm going to hop over to talking about the National Football League. The Houston Texans are still in OTAs. We'll be out there tomorrow because there's media availability tomorrow, so we get to watch OTAs, get a chance to talk tomorrow to some of the assistant coaches, which I think is cool because some of the guys are new, and we haven't had a chance to talk to them yet. A couple of them have remained from last year, but most of the coaches, most of the staff is new. So I'm excited to be able to interview a few of the coaches and chat with them tomorrow. And then next week, we get a chance to talk to head coach DeMeco Ryans and a few of the players again. But we did get a chance to talk with Coach Ryans last week and CJ Stroud and Jalen Pitre and some others. And here is DeMeco Ryans, talking about the offensive line. There's a lot of work and a lot of areas that this Texans team needed to get better in. And one of them was the offensive line, because the offense overall just wasn't very good, right? And we know that a lot of that is a quarterback. But now you've got a young quarterback, because although Davis Mills has taken air quote, snaps with the ones, there's no question that CJ Stroud will become the starter. I don't know if he starts week 1, if it's week 3, I'm not really sure, but you don't draft a quarterback at 2 with the second overall pick without the thought that he is going to be your quarterback of the future, and that's sooner rather than later. And it depends on how much he picks up, how much he can move into that spot, how ready he is. And so all of that, we'll know a lot more about that when we get a chance to see them in training camp, right? So one of the big parts of that is having an offensive line to protect your young rookie, give him some time, give him some help, and also to help with the running game, because that opens things up for your quarterback. Here's Coach Ryan talking about the offensive line.
We have a really good offensive line group, veteran guys mixed in with some young guys, and right now expect our O-line to be one of the strengths of our team. Really great coaching with our offensive line with Coach Schlosser and Coach Cole. Those guys have done an outstanding job of getting the guys ready to play, being honed in on the details. Our offensive line they've been impressive to watch over these few practices that we've had. It's been very impressive to watch and see how they've come along. So I'm very excited where they're going. I expect them to continue to improve and definitely be a strength for our offense.
Offensive line is important. They extended. They gave Laramie Tunsil a new deal. You got him at one side of tackle. You got Titus Howard on the other side. You got Kenyon Martin, who last year struggled. So, Kenyon Green. So hopefully he got really thrown into the fire. Like at that interior position, he faced a lot of talent last year, and that should have been a chance for him to really grow, right? So if he can come in and start healthy and have a full camp, I think, hopefully he will be the offensive lineman that they expected, which is why they drafted him so high out of Texas A&M University. And then, of course, they signed Shaq Mason in the offseason, and you've got some other guys that they brought in to help. So they have made an investment and been very intentional about building the offensive line. And so I'm not surprised to hear Coach Ryan say he expects them to be one of the better units of this franchise this year. And speaking of the young quarterback, here is CJ Stroud talking about really just wanting to be better.
I don't know, man. It's for me. I I think I'm a natural born competitor, so that's what I'm here to do. But at the same time, being a great teammate is more important. So that's what I've been on, just trying to embrace the relentless swarm that Coach Ryans wants us to be on. And that's what I plan to do, just be a great teammate, be a great leader, be vocal, be confident. I feel like I've done a decent job so far, but I got to keep growing every day. It's not going to be overnight. I'm going to have growing pains and things like that. But I think they're putting things around me, Davis, Case, and the quarterbacks to be successful and lead this team to win. So I'm excited to be in that room, to push each other, but at the same time help each other, which is more important.
CJ Stroud, I just like what I've seen from him so far, right? I like what I've seen from him so far. And, we will see how things come together. People, I've heard people talking about wins. I see James says 6 wins is his prediction. I think that's safe, James, right? Things fall into place. And then James also says, but 9 is possible if everything falls into place. Now, here are a few things that matter for this Texans team. They're playing a last place schedule because they were, a last place team. And they've got a lot of new pieces, and it does matter how it comes together. There's a lot of things we just don't know. Like, we can all feel great about Coach Ryans. I do. I'm glad he's the guy that's running the show. But we don't know yet how it all is going to come together. Excited about CJ Stroud being potentially the starting quarterback opening day, but definitely the starting quarterback, as I said, sooner rather than later. And some other pieces. Hopefully John Mechie, who has, was out last year because he was facing some non-football related health issues, right? He is beat cancer and has been working out and doing all the things to get himself back to be able to be in football shape and be on the field. There, high hopes for him, depending on how he responds, right? There's some other young guys. Christian Harris played, last year, came in late because of some injuries. Stingley had some injuries. So the rookie class, right? If they all come back, the rookie class, I'm talking about from 2022, and then you throw in the rookie class from 2023, we'll see. But it's a lot of youth, and there's a lot of youth. So they've tried to bring in some veterans to help mentor and bring these young guys along. But there's just a lot we don't know yet. And so you're right, James. If everything falls into place, it could be one of those times where they go from worst to first. And I'm talking in their division. It can happen. We've seen it, but we just we got to wait and see. Hey, Kim Edwards-Williams, we talked about our good friends over at I Love Jinka earlier about the fact that the Jinka is scaling and now will be in all 175 HEB healthy living stores, healthy living sections. The stores that have the healthy living section, I Love Jinka will now be in all of those, which is 175. So congratulations on your continued success, not just because it's great that you have this business and it's good for you and your family and the community, but because of the product that Jinka is and how it is actually changing lives. So keep up the great luck. We are sending you nothing but great vibes as you have this launch to more than triple, I guess 4 times the amount of stores that you're in with Jinka. So I wanted to say that. And also I want to say before we get out of here today, I often mention to you that it is important to be registered. Okay. As the Texas legislative session gets ready to come to a close, possibly, unless the governor calls a special session, we are reminded that every vote counts. And so while I never tell you who to vote for, I am definitely going to continue to encourage you to be registered, be an informed voter, and just pay attention, because the things that are happening across our states, rather, not just in the state of Texas, but also across the nation, those things affect all of us. And if you think it does not, just tell me something that you want to do. Oh, drive down the street, the roads matter. Send your kids to school, the curriculum matters. what they get to read, all that matters. The people who make those decisions, those people are put in place by how we vote. So I'm encouraging you right now, if you are not registered to vote and you hear my voice, or you're watching this show, or you know somebody who is not registered, encourage them to vote, to get registered to vote. Follow up with them, right? Get registered, stay registered, so that when it's time to vote, what you have to do is make sure that you're informed and you show up to vote. So I have to always throw that in because that's as important as anything else I talk about. James says, looking for how the team responds to a roller coaster of highs and lows of season and in-game rhythm. Yep, that's going to be about, a lot of that, James, is going to be about how this coaching staff works, right? How great DeMeco Ryans is at managing that, at preparing his team to be ready, how the team responds, because we just talked about it with Miami and with Boston. The roster obviously matters. You've got to have something to work with, but it's all the other pieces as well. And so hopefully those pieces will be in place. We will know. James says, vote or shut up. Listen, I would rather people vote. You know, we need to vote. We need to have a voice and exercise it. I am going to say this before we get out of here. It's just a little bit of a political education before we head out for the day. You know, there's this concern about whether or not the United States would default on its debt, right? This whole debt ceiling thing. And what I want people to remember, you may already know this, you know, if you watch Chalk Talk, you probably know this, is that it is about paying the bills for money that was already spent. It's like you have a credit card bill and now it's due and you can't change the rules on it. Like you already spent the money. You got to pay the debt. Well, that is what the debt ceiling conversation is. It is not okay to me that there be any consideration by anybody who has to vote on this, and that's anybody in Congress or whatever party you're in, to not raise a debt ceiling to cover the debt that's already been incurred prior to this current administration. Because what that means is veterans, seniors who rely on Medicare and Social Security, all of those people are in jeopardy of having the bills, having their checks, getting the money they need to survive, deposited in their account so that they can continue to live. That's unacceptable. And so what I say is the people who would consider not raising the debt limit, who are holding the government hostage by making some demands because they don't want to support poor people, okay, people who live at the poverty level or slightly above, those people should be voted out. It doesn't matter to me what the party is. Right? It doesn't matter to me what the party is, but I think that is unacceptable because if you receive a Social Security check, that is not something that the government is doing as a favor. That's money you've put into the system and it's yours, right? It's yours and you should get it. So I'm just going to leave that there and remind you why it's super important to vote. What's up, Kevin Walker? Everything is about the Red Raiders, isn't it? Well, I appreciate you. Thank you, my friend. I'm glad that you like it. It means I'm doing something right over here. And of course, James, thank you for being so engaged in a part of today's show. So listen, I'm going to be out covering Astros tonight. Tomorrow, I will be in the morning over at the Texans, getting a chance to watch OTAs and just check it out, whatever we can see. And I will be with you again next Tuesday. But in the meantime, follow me across all my platforms, right? I'm still waiting on Kevin Walker to invite me on his show. He's got this amazing show he does every Wednesday. And I'm still waiting for my invitation, Kevin Walker. Anyway, hey, you guys have a great, great week. Thank you for being a part of Chalk Talk. Remember to support the people who support us. I Love Jinka. Go to ilovejinka.com. And also you can check them out at HEB. You need that Jinka in your life. Make sure you check out Kimmy Treats. You can get it at Sunshine's over on Old Spanish Trail, or you can go to kimmytreats.com. And I also want to remind you about our good friends that are over at CHAMP, right? CHAMP is an organization that has designed to support veterans. It's a nonprofit that supports veterans and help them do the work. Also, it's about prevention. Prevention is vital to wellness, and there's support available. There's behavioral support, there's mental health support. If you see someone in crisis, I'm encouraging you to dial 988. Dial 988 because that is a number where somebody who is prepared and qualified to deal with a crisis, a mental health crisis, which is still dangerous. Call 988 so that they can get the support they need. All right. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being a part of Chalk Talk, the Chalk Talk tribe. I'll see you next week. And remember, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. Peace.